God says, listen gently, my beloved soul, because the way this moment found you was never about chance. It was about timing that could not be rushed. There were moments before when this message was close, yet not revealed, not because you were unready, but because your heart was still learning how to rest. Now something within you has softened enough to receive without resistance. That softness is not weakness. It is wisdom maturing quietly. This message does not come to startle you or to pull you in any direction. It comes to sit with you, calmly and patiently, the way light sits in a room without asking permission. You may not feel excitement or urgency, and that is perfectly fine. What is being offered here is reassurance that does not depend on emotion to be real. Silence is not This moment offers a different rhythm. Not a pause that disconnects you from life, but a pause that reconnects you to yourself. There is nothing you need to fix right now. Nothing you need to decide. Nothing you need to prove. The value of this message lies in how it allows you to be present without pressure. Presence is where clarity grows naturally. It does not need to be chased. God says, what was concealed was not hidden from you. It was held for you. Held until you could receive it without strain. That holding was an act of care, not distance. And now that it is revealed, it asks for nothing except your willingness to remain open for a moment longer. Stay with this calm. Let it settle into you the way warmth settles without asking questions. The message is not finished unfolding. It continues gently, carrying the same steadiness forward, preparing you for deeper reassurance without urgency or force. God says, stay here gently, without rushing your attention, because what is unfolding now works best when it is allowed to move at its own pace. Some messages are not meant to be understood immediately, they are meant to be felt slowly, layer by layer, the way dawn enters the sky without announcement. What you are receiving now is not information meant to be remembered word by word. It is an inner alignment meant to be carried forward quietly. You may sense that your thoughts are becoming less sharp, less demanding. This is not distraction. This is your inner world loosening. Its grip. When the mind stops trying to control meaning, meaning begins to settle on its own. You are not losing clarity, you are allowing it to arrive naturally instead of forcing it into place. This difference changes how deeply understanding stays with you. God says, there have been times when you tried to move forward while still holding unresolved weight from the past. Not because you wanted to cling to it, but because you did not know how to put it down without feeling like you were abandoning something important. This message is not asking you to revisit the past. It is helping you realize that you are allowed to carry forward only what nourishes you. What drains you no longer needs your attention. As you continue reading, you may notice a quiet sense of permission forming within you. Permission to slow down, permission to breathe without explanation, permission to exist without constantly evaluating your progress. This permission is not something you must earn. It is something you reclaim. You have always been allowed to move at a pace that honors your inner stability. God says, stability does not mean everything is settled. It means you are no longer shaken by every uncertainty. You can hold questions without anxiety. You can face choices without panic. This steadiness does not make life smaller, it makes it more navigable. From steadiness, confidence grows naturally, without effort. You may find that the need to compare yourself to others fades as this message continues. Comparison loses its grip when self-trust strengthens. Self-trust does not come from certainty about the future. It comes from knowing that you can meet whatever arises with awareness and care. You are developing that trust now, even if it feels subtle. God says, subtle shifts often create the most lasting change. Loud realizations fade quickly. Quiet understanding reshapes behavior over time. You may not notice immediate transformation, but later you will recognize moments where you respond differently, choose more gently, or pause where you once rushed. Those moments are the evidence of integration. Integration means that insight becomes part of you rather than something you must remember to apply. It changes how you listen, how you speak, how you interpret situations. It brings a sense of internal coherence, where your thoughts, emotions, and actions begin to align more smoothly. God says, alignment does not remove challenges. It removes unnecessary struggle. When you are aligned, challenges feel manageable rather than overwhelming. You stop fighting yourself while trying to solve external problems. This conservation of inner energy restores clarity and resilience. As this part of the message deepens, allow yourself to notice the absence of pressure. There is no deadline attached to understanding. There is no expectation to act immediately. This space is intentional. It allows understanding to mature rather than rush into conclusions. God says, what was revealed now is meant to be absorbed gradually. Like seeds placed gently into soil, it will take root in ways you do not need to supervise. Growth happens even when you are not watching. Trusting that process frees you from constant self-monitoring. You are not required to hold on to every thought presented here. What matters is the sense of calm continuity forming within you. That continuity will guide you beyond this moment, into decisions and interactions you have not yet reached. It will show itself as patience where impatience once lived, as clarity where confusion once lingered. Remain present without effort. Let this message continue to unfold naturally. It is carrying you toward deeper grounding, not toward urgency. There is more to come, and it will arrive with the same gentleness that has guided you this far. God says, as you remain with this message, something very steady is happening beneath the surface of your awareness. It is not dramatic and it is not demanding your attention, yet it is deeply effective. This is the kind of inner movement that does not rush to be noticed because it knows it will last. You are not being changed suddenly, you are being aligned slowly, and slow alignment is what holds when life begins to move again. You may feel as though your inner world is becoming quieter, not empty, but organized. Thoughts no longer collide with the same intensity. Emotions no longer demand immediate resolution. This calm does not mean you have no feelings. It means your feelings are no longer controlling your direction. When calm returns, discernment becomes easier, and choices begin to feel less heavy. God says, you have spent a long time being strong in ways that required endurance. You learned how to continue even when reassurance was absent. You learned how to function even when clarity felt delayed. That endurance shaped you, but it also tired you. This message is not undoing your strength, it is restoring balance to it. Strength supported by peace becomes sustainable rather than exhausting. As this part unfolds, you may notice that old fears no longer feel as loud. They may still exist, but they no longer define the room. Fear loses its grip when understanding grows. Understanding does not argue with fear. It outgrows it. That growth is happening now, quietly, without confrontation. God says, there were moments when you believed you needed answers before you could move forward. Now you are learning that sometimes you need grounding before answers can make sense. Grounding stabilizes your inner posture so that when insight arrives, it does not overwhelm you. You are being prepared not just to receive clarity, but to hold it well. You may also notice a change in how you relate to uncertainty. Uncertainty no longer feels like a threat that must be eliminated. It feels like a space where possibility exists. This shift changes how you experience waiting. Waiting becomes less about frustration and more about readiness. Readiness is not passive, it is attentive without strain. God says, attentiveness without strain is a sign of trust returning. Trust does not require guarantees. It requires presence. Presence allows you to respond to what is real rather than react to what is imagined. This difference protects your peace and sharpens your intuition. As you stay with this message, your intuition may feel clearer, not because it is telling you specific instructions, but because it is quieter. When noise fades, intuition becomes easier to recognize. It does not speak loudly. It nudges gently. Those nudges are easier to feel now because your inner environment is less crowded. God says, you are not meant to carry everything at once. Life unfolds in segments for a reason. You are allowed to focus on what is in front of you without solving what lies far ahead. This permission reduces pressure and restores enjoyment in the present moment. There is also a soft compassion forming within you, not just for others, but for yourself. You may find yourself judging your past decisions less harshly. This compassion does not excuse mistakes. It contextualizes them. It allows learning without shame. Learning without shame leads to growth that feels empowering rather than painful. God says, empowerment does not feel like control. It feels like confidence in your ability to adapt. Adaptability is one of your strengths, even when you did not recognize it as such. You have adjusted many times without losing your core. That resilience remains with you now, strengthened by awareness. As this part of the message deepens, allow yourself to remain unhurried. There is no climax being pushed toward. There is only a gradual settling into clarity that feels natural rather than forced. You do not need to remember every sentence. What matters is how your inner state continues to soften and stabilize. God says, this stability will follow you beyond this message. It will show itself later in moments where you pause instead of panic, listen instead of assume, and choose with calm rather than pressure. Those moments will feel ordinary, but they will mark a real shift. Remain with this grounded presence. Let it continue unfolding without interruption. The message is guiding you toward a gentle completion, one that does not end abruptly, but arrives when understanding feels settled rather than rushed. God says, "Now let everything you have received settle without effort," because the purpose of this message was never to overwhelm you with meaning, but to return you to a sense of inner steadiness you may have forgotten you already possessed. What has unfolded here was not meant to push you toward immediate action or dramatic realization. It was meant to quietly realign you with your own center, the place where clarity feels natural and trust feels possible again. You may notice that there is no tension pulling you forward or backward anymore. The need to rush has softened. The need to question yourself constantly has loosened. This is not because every uncertainty has disappeared, but because uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. When the heart regains balance, unknowns lose their power to disturb. They become part of the journey rather than obstacles to it. God says, "You are allowed to move forward without carrying the burden of constant self-correction." You do not need to replay old moments, analyze past decisions, or prove to yourself that you are worthy of what comes next. Worth was never something you had to earn through perfection. It was always present, even during the moments when you doubted it the most. As this message reaches its natural completion, there is a quiet invitation for you to trust your own pace. Your life does not need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. The path you are walking has been shaped by experiences that taught you patience, empathy, and depth. These qualities will guide you more reliably than urgency ever could. God says, "What is meant for you does not require force or anxiety. It arrives when alignment is complete, not when exhaustion takes over." Alignment is not something you chase. It is something you allow. You have been allowing it here, simply by staying present without resistance. You may not feel a dramatic emotional surge, and that is intentional. What you are receiving is stability, not excitement. Stability lasts longer. It supports you when life becomes busy again. It reminds you that you can return to calm even when circumstances shift. God says, "Remember that peace is not the absence of challenge. It is the ability to remain grounded while facing it." You are capable of that grounding. You have demonstrated it more times than you give yourself credit for. This message exists to remind you of that truth, not to add pressure to your journey. As you move away from these words and back into your day, you do not need to carry them consciously. Let the feeling remain instead. Let the steadiness guide how you respond, how you listen, and how you decide. That guidance will continue quietly, without needing constant attention. God says, "Nothing has been taken from you by waiting." Waiting has refined you. It has given you the ability to recognize what truly matters and to let go of what does not. This discernment will protect your peace moving forward. This message does not close a chapter. It completes a reminder. A reminder that you are supported in ways that do not need to be proven, guided in ways that do not need to be explained, and allowed to move forward without fear of falling behind. Carry this understanding lightly. Let it accompany you without demand.